The glass slipped from Marco Bellini's hand and shattered across the restaurant floor. Every conversation stopped. Near the front window, a heavy-set woman in a navy dress knelt beside a teenage boy. One hand supported his shoulders, the other checked his breathing. "He's choking," she said. "Call 911. The boy's face had already turned pale. His mother screamed from across the room. A waiter froze beside the table, too shocked to move. Then the woman wrapped her arms around the boy and pulled sharply beneath his ribs. Once, twice. A piece of steak flew onto the carpet. The boy collapsed against her, coughing hard. Only then did Marco move. He crossed the dining room with 3 armed men behind him. Guests recognized him immediately. They lowered their eyes and stepped back. Marco Bellini owned half the waterfront. The other half feared him. He crouched beside the boy. "Luca." The teenager looked up, shaken but breathing. "I'm okay, Dad." Marco touched his son's face. Relief passed through his expression, then disappeared beneath control. The woman rose slowly. She was in her early 50s, with silver threaded through dark curls. Her figure was full and soft beneath the simple dress. Nothing about her looked fragile. "You should have someone check him," she said. Marco looked at her hands, then at the stain on her sleeve. "You work here?" Her eyebrows lifted. "No." "Then why were you near my table?" The question struck harder than he intended. The room became uncomfortable. The woman glanced at the fallen glass and broken plate. Then she faced him again. "Your son was choking. I saw that. Then you also saw me save him." Marco stood. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in black. Most people found reasons to apologize when he looked at them. She did not. Marco's gaze moved over her worn shoes and modest handbag. "People often create emergencies around my family." A quiet gasp moved through the dining room. Luca stared at his father. "Dad, she helped me." The woman's face changed. Not with fear, with disappointment. "My name is Elena Russo," she said. "I did not touch your son for money." Marco reached inside his jacket. Elena's expression hardened. He pulled out a thick roll of bills. "For your trouble." She looked at the money, then at him. No. Marco had been refused before. Never like that. Elena picked up her handbag and turned toward the door. Luca stood quickly. "Wait." She paused. The boy stepped closer and placed a small silver medal in her palm. "My mother gave me this," he said. "Please take it until I can thank you properly." Elena stared at the medal. All color left her face. Marco noticed. So did Luca. Her fingers closed around the silver piece. "Where did you get this?" she asked. Luca frowned. "I told you. It belonged to my mother." Elena looked at Marco for the first time with something close to fear. Then she whispered the name of a woman who had been dead for 12 years. Russo's bakery opened at 5 every morning. By 6, the front windows fogged with heat. The air smelled like cinnamon, strong coffee, and fresh bread. Elena moved behind the counter with practiced calm, greeting customers by name. She had owned the bakery for 23 years. It was the only place where she still felt in control. Her daughter, Sophia, carried a tray of pastries from the kitchen. "You look tired." "I am tired." "That is not what I meant." Elena glanced toward the front door. Sophia followed her gaze. "Are you expecting someone?" "No." The bell above the entrance rang. Marco Bellini walked inside. The bakery went quiet in pieces. First, the 2 construction workers near the window stopped talking. Then an older customer lowered his newspaper. Even Sophia froze with the tray in her hands. Marco wore a charcoal coat over a black shirt. No guards entered with him. That somehow made him more dangerous. Elena set down the coffee pot. "We are not open for private interrogations. I came for breakfast. You have restaurants. None of them make cannoli like yours." Sophia looked at her mother. Elena did not answer. Marco approached the counter. For the first time, he looked uncertain about what to do with his hands. "I owe you an apology." Elena almost laughed. "That was fast. I accused you without cause. You insulted me in front of a room full of people." "Yes, You offered me cash like I was waiting for a reward. Yes. And now you think coffee fixes that? No. His answer came without defense. That surprised her. Marco placed a folded envelope on the counter. Elena did not touch it. What is that? Nothing for you. Then take it back. It contains a written apology to my son. Sophia's eyebrows rose. Marco continued. He saw me treat you badly. I needed him to see me correct it. Elena studied his face. There was no charm in his expression. No polished smile. Only discomfort. Good. He deserved some. She poured coffee into a plain white mug and pushed it toward him. $3. Marco reached for his wallet. Then the front door opened again. A gray-haired man entered, carrying a cane he did not need. Elena recognized him immediately. So did Marco. Vincent Caruso had served the Bellini family for 40 years. He had also been present the night Anna disappeared from Elena's life. Vincent looked from Marco to Elena. His face lost all warmth. You should not be here, he said. Elena's fingers tightened around the counter. Marco turned slowly. You know her. Vincent did not answer. That silence told Marco enough. Elena stepped forward. Leave my bakery. Vincent looked at her with open warning. You promised never to speak about Anna. Sophia dropped the tray. Porcelain shattered across the floor. Marco's voice became very quiet. What promise? Vincent's face hardened. Elena, this is not the place. Marco stepped between them. Then choose another place. Vincent leaned on his cane. This time, he actually needed it. Sophia moved closer to her mother. What is he talking about? Elena stared at the broken porcelain near her feet. For 12 years, she had protected Anna's last request. She had told herself silence was mercy. Now Luca had nearly died with Anna's medal around his neck. Silence no longer felt merciful. Elena, Vincent said. Think carefully. I have. She raised her eyes to Marco. Anna came here 3 weeks before she died. Marco's expression sharpened. She never mentioned you. She was afraid to. Afraid of me. No. Elena looked at Vincent. She was afraid of someone inside your family. The bakery became still. Marco's voice dropped. Who? I never knew his name. Vincent exhaled slowly. This is dangerous. Marco turned toward him. For whom? Vincent said nothing. Elena walked to the register and reached beneath the counter. She removed an old tin recipe box, faded red around the edges. Sophia stared at it. You kept that. I promised I would. Elena opened the box. Inside were handwritten recipes, family photographs, and a sealed envelope. The paper had yellowed with age. Marco saw his name across the front. His entire body went rigid. Elena placed the envelope on the counter. Anna gave me this. Marco did not reach for it. What does it say? I don't know. You never opened it? It wasn't mine. Vincent stepped forward. Destroy it. Marco looked at him. The room seemed to shrink. Elena pushed the envelope closer. Anna said you should receive it only under one condition. Marco's fingers tightened beside the coffee mug. What condition? She said to wait until Luca was old enough to recognize a lie. Sophia covered her mouth. Vincent's face turned gray. Marco picked up the envelope. The seal broke beneath his thumb. Inside was a single page, written in Anna's careful hand. He read the first line. Then he stopped. Elena watched the control leave his face. What did she write? Sophia asked. Marco did not answer. He read the line again. When he finally looked at Vincent, there was no confusion left, only betrayal. My wife believed someone planned to kill her. Vincent closed his eyes. Marco unfolded the rest of the letter. At the bottom, Anna had written one final name, a name Marco trusted more than his own blood. Marco read the final name 3 times. Then he folded the page with painful care. Sophia watched him from behind the counter. Who is it? Marco looked toward Vincent. My brother. Vincent lowered his head. Elena felt the room tilt. Your brother, Dominic Bellini. The name carried weight in Chicago. Dominic handled the family's legal businesses, political relationships, and public image. He was the polished brother, the respectable one. Marco had trusted him with everything, including Anna. Vincent gripped the top of his cane. Anna suspected him. She never proved it. Marco's eyes hardened. You knew? I knew she was frightened. That was not my question. Vincent looked older than he had moments before. Yes. Marco stepped closer. You let me bury my wife, believing her death was an accident. I was trying to protect Luca. From whom? From the man who had access to your home, your cars, and your security. Elena moved beside Sofia. Marco's anger filled the bakery, but he never raised his voice. That made every word heavier. Why did Anna come to Elena? Vincent glanced at the sealed recipe box. Because Elena was outside the family. Elena answered before he could say more. Anna and I grew up together. Marco turned toward her. We were neighbors, Elena said. Best friends until she married you. Why did that end? It didn't. Her voice softened. She stopped visiting because someone followed her here. Marco's expression changed. Elena continued. She believed Dominic was using one of your companies to move money. Anna found records she was never supposed to see. Vincent nodded once. She copied them. Marco looked at the recipe box. Elena shook her head. They were not in the envelope. Then, where are they? I don't know. Vincent looked toward Luca's medal, hidden beneath Marco's memory. The medal. Marco went still. Elena understood at the same moment. Anna had given the medal to Luca before she died. Luca had carried it for years. A family keepsake. A hiding place no one would question. Marco pulled out his phone. Bring Luca to the bakery. Now. Vincent's face tightened. That may be exactly what Dominic wants. Marco stopped. Outside, a black sedan rolled slowly past the front window. Then it stopped across the street. Elena noticed the driver first. He was not looking at the bakery. He was watching Marco through the mirror. Sofia whispered, Mom. Marco turned toward the glass. The sedan's rear door opened. A man, in a tailored grey suit, stepped onto the sidewalk. Dominic Bellini smiled, as though he had arrived for coffee. Then he looked directly at Elena, and she realized he already knew about the letter. Dominic entered the bakery without waiting for permission. He brushed snow from his coat and smiled at Sofia. Sorry about the mess. Nobody answered. His gaze moved to the broken tray, then to the letter in Marco's hand. The smile remained, so Anna finally spoke. Marco stepped away from the counter. You knew about the letter. Dominic removed his gloves. I knew she was frightened. Anna was often frightened near the end. Elena's stomach tightened. That is not what Vincent said. Dominic looked at her. For one brief second, the warmth left his face. You must be Elena. You already knew my name. I know everyone who enters my family's problems. Marco moved between them. She is not your problem. Dominic gave a quiet laugh. She became one 12 years ago. Sofia reached beneath the counter for her phone. Dominic noticed. Please don't. Marco's hand closed around his brother's wrist. Dominic looked down at it. Then, back at Marco. You brought no guards. I didn't need them. You always needed someone. Marco released him. The insult landed, but he did not react. Tell me about Anna. Dominic's expression softened with practiced sadness. She found financial records. She misunderstood. She named you. She was sick. Elena stepped forward. Anna was terrified, not confused. Dominic turned toward her. You saw her 3 times in 10 years. I knew her. Before your money changed everything. A flicker of anger crossed his face. Marco caught it. So did Vincent. Dominic adjusted his cuff. Anna discovered payments tied to city contracts. She thought I was stealing. Were you? Marco asked. Dominic did not answer immediately. That pause carried more truth than any confession. Marco's voice became colder. Did you kill her? Sofia stopped breathing. Vincent stared at the floor. Dominic's smile finally disappeared. No. Marco held his gaze. But you know who did. Dominic looked toward the front window. The black sedan still waited across the street. I know Anna made enemies. She was my wife. She was asking questions that could destroy everyone. Marco unfolded the letter again. Everyone? Dominic stepped closer. You built an empire through fear. Did you really believe fear stayed outside your home? Elena watched Marco absorb the words. For the first time, his power looked useless. Then Dominic's phone vibrated. He checked the screen. His face changed, only slightly. But Elena saw it. What happened? She asked. Dominic slipped the phone away. Nothing. Marco grabbed his coat. Where is Luca? Dominic looked at him with open pity. You should have asked that sooner. Marco called his son. No answer. He called again. Straight to voicemail. Then a message appeared on his screen. A photograph. Luca sat inside an unfamiliar car. His hands were free, but fear filled his face. Beneath the picture were 6 words. Bring the medal. Come alone. Marco stared at the photograph until his hand began to shake. Elena had never seen fear on his face before. Not anger, not suspicion, fear. Where was that taken? She asked. Marco enlarged the image. A rusted metal wall stood behind Luca. One corner showed a faded shipping label. Vincent leaned closer. That warehouse belongs to Bellini Freight. Dominic's expression tightened. Marco noticed. You knew. I knew they might move him there. Who are they? Dominic looked toward Sofia, then Elena. Men who worked for me years ago. Marco grabbed his brother by the collar. You said you didn't kill Anna. I didn't. But you protected the people who did. Dominic's silence confirmed it. Marco released him with disgust. The phone rang. He answered immediately. A distorted voice filled the bakery. Midnight. Warehouse 14. Bring the medal. Marco looked at the clock. Less than an hour. If Luca is hurt, he won't be, unless you bring company. The call ended. Marco turned toward Vincent. Get my men ready. Elena stepped between them. They said, come alone. They already took my son, and rushing in could get him killed. Marco's stare cut toward her. You expect me to wait? No. I expect you to think. She pointed toward the medal beneath Luca's shirt in the photograph. They believe the evidence is inside it. Marco looked again. Luca was still wearing the chain. That made no sense. If they had searched him, they would already have it, Elena said. Vincent understood first. They don't know he has the real medal. Dominic's face changed. Marco turned slowly. What did you give them? Dominic said nothing. Elena reached across the counter and opened Anna's recipe box. Beneath the photographs sat a second silver medal. It looked identical. Sofia whispered. There were 2? Elena lifted it carefully. Anna gave me this one the night she came here. Marco stared at the twin medals. One had protected Luca for 12 years. The other had been hidden in plain sight. Elena pressed her thumb against the edge. A narrow compartment opened. Inside was a tiny brass key. Marco looked at Dominic. What does it open? Dominic's face went pale. A safe deposit box. Where? Dominic glanced toward the window. Then the bakery lights went out. In the darkness, the front door unlocked from the outside. The front door opened 3 inches. Marco moved first. He pulled Elena behind the counter and drew his weapon. Vincent shoved Sofia toward the kitchen. Back door, he said. Now. A shadow crossed the glass. Then someone threw a small metal cylinder into the bakery. Smoke exploded across the floor. Elena coughed and covered her mouth. Marco grabbed her wrist before she lost direction. Stay with me. A man rushed through the doorway. Marco struck him once and drove him into the wall. Another figure followed, reaching for the recipe box. Elena saw the movement. She snatched the box first. The attacker caught her arm. Give me the key. Elena drove her knee into his leg. His grip loosened just enough. Marco turned and hit him hard across the jaw. The man collapsed beside the display case. For several seconds, only coughing filled the bakery. Then the smoke alarm began screaming. Sofia returned from the kitchen with a fire extinguisher. She sprayed the doorway until the remaining attacker retreated into the street. Marco looked at her. I told you to leave. This is my bakery. Even now, Sophia sounded exactly like her mother. Dominic stood near the wall, breathing hard. Vincent pointed toward the unconscious man. He works for Patrick Doyle. Marco recognized the name. Doyle had managed Bellini Freight for 15 years. He also signed the maintenance report after Anna's fatal crash. Marco looked at Dominic. You protected him. Dominic's face had lost its polish. I protected the company. You protected yourself. Marco searched the attacker's coat and found a warehouse access card. Warehouse 14. Elena opened her hand. The brass key was still there. Marco stared at it. We go now. Dominic stepped forward. You cannot enter that building with an army. I know. You cannot enter alone either. Marco looked toward Elena. She already understood what he was thinking. No. You know Anna's clues. That does not make me part of your war. It already did. Elena's eyes hardened. You brought danger into my daughter's bakery. Marco accepted the accusation without defense. You are right. That stopped her. He placed his weapon on the counter and stepped back. I will not force you. His voice was steady, but the fear remained. My son has 40 minutes. Elena looked at Sophia. Her daughter shook her head. Mom, don't go. Elena wanted to agree. Then she remembered Luca gasping on the restaurant floor. She remembered Anna's handwriting and the medal around his neck. She closed her fingers around the key. I'm going. Marco picked up his weapon. Vincent handed him the access card. Dominic moved toward the door. You still need me. Marco blocked him. No, I need the truth. Dominic looked at the key in Elena's hand. Then he said the one thing none of them expected. The safe deposit box is empty. Marco stared at him. Dominic swallowed. I opened it 12 years ago, and Anna's evidence had never been in the box. Marco stepped closer to Dominic. What did you find inside the box? Dominic looked toward the shattered front window. Bank records, contract numbers, names. Where are they now? Gone. Marco's voice stayed calm. You burned them? I tried. Elena heard the answer beneath the words. Tried? Dominic looked at her. Anna made copies. Vincent tightened his grip on the cane. Where? Dominic nodded toward the second medal. The key was never for the evidence. It opened a storage locker beneath Union Station. Marco stared at him. You knew that. I found the box first, not the locker. Elena understood. Doyle took Luca because he believes the medal leads to both. Dominic nodded. Marco checked the time. 28 minutes. They left the bakery through the rear entrance. Vincent drove. Sophia stayed behind with police on the way. Marco said little during the ride. Elena sat beside him, holding the second medal. You blamed me at the restaurant, she said. I did. You assumed the worst. Yes. And now you need my help. Marco looked at her. Yes. No excuse. No threat. Only truth. Warehouse 14 stood near the river, dark against the winter sky. One security light flickered above the loading dock. Marco stopped near the entrance. Elena, stay in the car. No, this is not your fight. It became my fight when they took a child. Marco studied her face. Then he handed her a phone. Call Vincent if anything changes. They entered through a side door. The warehouse smelled like oil, cold metal, and river water. Footsteps echoed somewhere above them. Then Luca's voice broke through the darkness. Dad? Marco moved toward the sound. A spotlight snapped on. Luca sat in a chair near the center of the floor. His hands were tied loosely. Patrick Doyle stood behind him. Doyle held no weapon. That worried Marco more. You brought the medal? Doyle asked. Elena stepped into the light. I did. Doyle smiled. Anna trusted the wrong woman. Elena held up the silver piece. No. She trusted the only woman you never noticed. Doyle reached for it. Marco moved between them. Release my son. Doyle laughed. You still think this is about money? A door opened on the upper level. 3 men appeared behind the railing. Then Dominic stepped out beside them. Marco looked up. Dominic's face was empty. I'm sorry, brother. And Marco finally understood who had arranged the kidnapping. Marco looked at Dominic above the warehouse floor. You took Luca. Dominic's mouth tightened. I needed the medal before Doyle sold us all. Doyle turned sharply. You said Marco would come alone. He never does. That was Dominic's mistake. While they argued, Luca twisted one hand free. Elena saw it first. She dropped the medal. Every eye followed the silver flash. Luca ran. Marco crossed the floor and pulled his son behind a steel column. At that moment, Vincent entered with 2 organized crime detectives. The men on the railing lowered their weapons. Doyle reached for the medal. Elena kicked it beneath a machine. You ignored Anna when she was alive, she said. You will not use her now. Dominic looked at Marco. I protected the family. No, Marco said. You protected the Empire. The detectives arrested Doyle and the armed men. Dominic did not resist when Marco handed the man his letter. For once, Marco chose the truth over blood. 3 months later, the Bellini investigation filled every Chicago newspaper. Marco surrendered his records, testified against Dominic, and closed every company connected to Doyle. He also returned to Russo's bakery, not with guards, not with money. He came with Luca and a new tray to replace the one Sofia had dropped. Elena met him at the counter. I am not asking you to forgive me, he said. Good. I am asking for coffee. She studied him for a long moment. $3. Marco placed 3 bills on the counter. Luca smiled. Elena poured the coffee. It was not forgiveness. It was a beginning. Before leaving, Marco looked back. Elena was laughing with Sofia beneath Anna's photograph. For the first time, he understood what his wife had tried to save. Not an empire, a family that still knew how to tell the truth. Do you think Marco earned a second chance? Share your thoughts, and stay with us for more heartfelt stories.